What is going on, everyone? Why don't we take a look at Beantown, Boston, Massachusetts? You know, in this life, if you're fortunate, you might find that one place that's perfect. A place where you could spend every last minute you have in peace and happiness. A place where the flowers seem to have more color, the air is fresher, the people are friendlier, and the grass is softer. Boston ain't none of those places. Boston gets cold, busy, loud, and unfriendly. And those are the mild descriptions of Boston. I just sugarcoated it for you. It's right here, in case you don't know, on the Atlantic coast of Massachusetts. Boston is like Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. when it comes to American history. You could argue that it has the most colonial Revolutionary War history in the United States. Like all cities, Boston has its pros and its cons. Boston isn't for everyone. So why don't we take a look at 10 of the reasons why it might not be for you in my top 10 reasons not to move to Boston, Massachusetts. Number 10. Fire hazards. Boston is filled with very traditional New England architecture. Although it may be beautiful, it poses many threats, the main one being fires. Not only does New England's architecture have some of the best row houses, it also has single-family homes that are often right on top of each other. There is very little space between those homes. If one house catches on fire, next door is probably going to get some serious damage as well, if not destroyed. And there's always the potential to catch the whole block, or at least several houses on the block, if not caught properly and quickly. Lucky for the people of Boston, they have one of the best fire departments in the country, so there's that. Number 9. The Tea Party. Yeah, not that one. You'll be reminded almost every day of the Boston Tea Party. In 1773, protesters dumped 92,000 pounds of tea into the Boston Harbor to protest the taxation of tea. Now, this tells you a little something about the culture of the people of Boston. If they don't like what you're doing, they're going to start breaking stuff. I mean, these people started a freaking revolution over someone making their morning beverage more expensive. And before you give us the history of that story, stop typing. I know it's a more in-depth conversation, and it's got a lot more to that story than my brief little sentence there, but it's a 10-minute video. If anyone wants any more information on the Boston Tea Party, we have this thing called Google. Thanks. Number 8. The accent. Boston residents have an extremely thick and harsh accent. It can often be very difficult to understand and can sound rude to non-residents. Honestly, they sound like they're speaking another language sometimes. Some of them, it's so thick, you're like, what are you talking about? It's that bad. Now, for the most part, they aren't being rude. They're a lot like New York and New Jersey as far as accents go. It sounds loud, it's blunt, and it sounds angry. Don't get me wrong. They have a ton of people that are perpetually pissed off human beings, but for the most part, it's just the way they speak, and they're good people. Just be ready for that if you move there, okay? Number 7. Traffic. Like all major cities, Beantown has bad traffic. It also has an added issue to its normal city-type traffic. It's a very old city, with a ton of very narrow streets. Due to narrow streets and a large population, this city gets crowded quick. And because of this, horrible traffic every single day. Since it's so congested, many people have started walking and using public transit more than ever before. Which, I mean, is kind of a good thing, but still doesn't take away the fact it's, extremely congested. Also, working from home is becoming more and more a thing in Boston. Number 6. Boston Pride. The people of Boston are extremely proud of their city. One thing to keep in mind, only they can talk trash about Boston. If you want to talk trash about Beantown, better make sure you have dental insurance. And never talk bad about the Red Sox, Bruins, or Celtics. Do this in a Boston bar and you might catch a beating. I'm not even joking. They love their sports teams. The Patriots they love too, but they're not as fanatical as they are about the Red Sox, Bruins, and Celtics. That's just food for thought if you decide to move to Boston. Number 5. Not dog friendly. Boston is surprisingly very unfriendly towards dogs. Dogs are not welcome in most businesses, such as grocery stores and coffee shops. Total opposite of Portland. Here we let you bring dogs into some bars. I have dogs. I love my dogs. I don't want to take them out for a beer, but some people do. One of my dogs isn't fixed. And with all the sexual harassment things going on these days, it would be just my luck to run for office someday and someone comes out and says I let my dog do the nasty on their leg while I was drinking. That never looks good in the press. I'd never be elected. But in Boston, dogs are barely welcome in public parks. There's only 7 parks in the city which allow dogs to be off their leash. When in on-leash areas, off-leash dog owners could risk a ticket of up to $25. Number 4. Bad drivers. Not only is traffic horrible in Boston, but these residents have the worst road rage in the country. They're not afraid to get out of their car and start a fight at a red light over being cut off like 10 miles back. They're nuts. I sometimes think they'd do this instead of going to CrossFit. Number 3, it's expensive. There's no doubt that Boston is extremely expensive. Like most major cities right now, it's just getting way too pricey. The overall cost of living is 47% higher than the national average in Boston. As of October 2018, the average studio apartment in Boston goes for about $2,300. That's according to rentcafe.com. And that sucks. That is just under San Francisco, where people making $75,000 a year have to sleep in their cars because the cost of living is too high. That's crazy. Number 2, crime. AreaVibes.com gives Boston a big fat F when it comes to crime. Boston is safer than only 14% of the cities in the United States. That means if there were 100 cities in the United States, there's only 14 of them that are more dangerous than Boston. That's not good. When you consider the rest of the metro area, it gets to be only 9%. Again, if you had 100 cities, that means there's only 9 other ones worse than Boston general area. And those numbers don't even reflect being verbally assaulted by that accent. And number 1, winter. Winters here are the worst. Boston has famously brutal winters. Be prepared for ice storms, snowstorms, hailstorms, rainstorms, and any other storm other than dust. The roads here turn into slush rivers. So much snow falls it almost has to be plowed hourly. And on average, the city gets about 44 inches of snow a year. And chubby dudes still take their shirts off at Patriots games. Just weird. In reality, Boston is a great city that a lot of people move to. You just have to be prepared for winters there. That's the worst part about living in Boston. It's rough. Alright, so that's my top 10 reasons not to move to Boston. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Boston is a great city, one of the finest cities this country has. The history is so deep, it would take me hours just to kind of skim over it. Anyway, don't forget all the links below. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.